Hola community, welcome to another episode of Blender Today / Everyday. No, this is Blender Today because we're going to talk about what's new in Blender and go through the questions and answer those that we can. But today we should be more up to answering those questions because we have two developers in house, not in house, stay home, but not in their houses. These two developers, you probably know one of them more because he's been around. He's a local pretty much for every developer. And the first guest here, give it up for the live Felinto.
Hey, hello Pablo. It's so nice to be a regular in the show. Welcome everyone.
Cool. And you're gonna help answering questions, please. This week has been a bit. I've been interviewing people from the community, and I haven't been able to keep up that much with what's new. So I'm gonna need your help. But also because there is a little announcement. Actually, if you are subscribed to this channel, you may know already. You may have seen already there's a new series for Python for artists or scripting for artists, and the author of this series is here today, so give it up for Steven Stubble.
Hello. Good to be here.
Good to
First
have you
time here, so it's exciting to be in a live stream.
First time?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, cool.
I think so.
Nice. It's funny to see you there and then see the tutorial. It's exactly the same setup.
It is, because it's at home, and I've just been reading the second video of this week, so
nice. So
talk about that later.
The first one, if you haven't seen it already, just check, not now, but go later to check in this channel. 2 days ago it was uploaded, is about handling collections, right?
Yep. Yes, Blender collections and handling them in Python. So creating them, adding to them to a scene, moving objects from collection to collection, that kind of stuff.
Wow, everything via the console, the terminal, like Python stuff.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Cool. I've seen that has a really good reception. People are really happy. It's like, yes, this is what we wanted.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like 10,000 views within a day.
Wow.
Like, yeah,
and the comments, especially the comments, because it's like it's really like what makes you feel like people were looking for something like this, modeling, shading, texturing. You see all those tutorials, but scripting, it's like rigging or like animation. No one knows to make sense.
Yeah,
maybe because it takes too much time, right? If you want to teach programming, if it's a little bit advanced, or if you want to know a little bit more, like you want to talk about a bit more in detail, or like knowing what you're talking about, you kind of have to spend a few years at least.
Well, yeah, and there are programming tutorials that start really simple. The Python tutorial starts out simple. It's a nice one if you want to learn how to do programming.
Yeah.
But this is aimed at people who don't want to learn programming, but who want to not repeat themselves all the time and just make it an easier life for them. So I think that's really a niche that hasn't been good for.
Yeah, and I think for scripting especially because is it tailored for artists, or you think other people can also benefit from it, like add-on developers as well?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's made for with artists in mind, basically. But I've already sent people to scripting for artists, like, hey, this development question that you asked now, I'm actually covering that in that chapter.
In the chapter, yes. But
Yeah.
This series is a continuation is an expansion of the scripting for artists, which is in the cloud, so you need a subscription for it. But the videos that you're making now are gonna be both on the cloud and for free on YouTube, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Nice.
For everybody at home, just like us.
Yes.
Yep.
To enjoy it at home, and it's gonna go as long as we can.
Yeah.
There's a lot to cover. What is can you sneak peek on what is the topic of the next video?
Yes, I had a question on Twitter when I asked for more inspiration, and I think it's a really interesting one because it's quite a fundamental one. The difference between the for loop and a while loop. It's something that is quite you can rewrite a for loop into a while loop and vice versa. So when do you use one? When do you use the other? I think it's a really interesting one. So I made a video about that, and it's actually rendering right now.
Wow, nice. Cool. If you ask me, I wouldn't know. I just copy paste from Stack Overflow or something like that. Awesome. Great. Dalai, what about you? How you doing these days? How are you handling?
I keep saying that for us, the work didn't change that much because we have most of the team working remotely. We have like 10 people working remotely, then 7 developers now working remotely as well. So actually, it's business as usual. Just trying to structure the work a little bit.
Yes? What happened?
I'm looking at you're showing my Twitter.
Yeah, it's your Twitter. You're like Los Amigos at SIGGRAPH. I look at this picture and I get kind of sad, you know, because there will be probably I don't know if they're going to be SIGGRAPH. It's going to be tough, but probably not.
So it's, everything's been fine. I mean, we're doing some paperwork this time because of Stacks here is still closing. Those things don't change. So this was a bit more boring. We had a big discussion this week about release process, release management.
Release process.
Yeah, just to, because since August, we started to structure the release so we have an overlap window with the ongoing versions of Blender. And some of these didn't work out so well because we keep having to delay the release date, keep missing the deadlines or stressing out some of the developers, having too many patches to be reviewed in the very final week. So we are trying to see, okay, how we can improve top of that. So Brecht, Sergey, and we had a meeting on Monday, and I think it's gonna be fine. It's basically about defining the roles a little bit more throughout because some of the part of the release process happens during the release day or during the beacon changes, when it goes from beacon 1 to beacon 2, when you open Blender for new features or not.
Yeah.
But some of this is actually a continuous process, and it's better to map this out way ahead of time. So whenever a feature gets into Blender, getting master, can already be documented and having the release log and the notes. So still need to talk with the part of the web team.
With the PR team.
We have a meeting on Monday, right?
Yeah, we have a meeting on Monday. Actually, we're gonna talk about it on Monday. Just to have a bit more. To have this a bit more organized. I think the last time it didn't go too bad. 2.82a was fine. 2.82 was maybe a bit more stressful, but we managed to get it. The looks good, like the release logs look great. The video that Francesco made is amazing.
The work's definitely impressive, and the results show, but still in the 2.82, we had to postpone.
It's Friday. Come on.
The beacon 1.
Yeah.
I have my ear as well.
I used to do this, by the way, for people that are not looking at home. You shouldn't do it if you're not allowed to. But I used to do this on my own YouTube channel, and I'm at home. Let's bring the tradition. Okay, so cheers, guys. Good job this week. 2.83 is looking amazing. It's really looking great. In like every aspect. There is VR. I still have to do the recap, but it's like VR, volume, objects, UI improvements. Wow, I'm talking, and I didn't even drink yet. Ideas Man, Campbell Barton added this menu search functionality as this is super cool. Good. Yeah,
it's so good. Jesus, have you seen that, Sibrin?
The menu search functionality? No, I think you're muted.
You're muted, Sibrin.
Yep.
I'm muted. No, not anymore. I haven't seen it. No.
Wow.
What is the
awesome.
menu search?
Go to the preferences. Go to experimental, enable menu search is a new setting. And then when you search like F3, you're gonna see that it not only shows the actual operator, but it shows the menu where you can find it. So it's like camera rig.
Oh,
before it used to be like
that is cool.
Add camera. Now it's like, oh, add shift, curve, and circle. And then that's for everything.
That is nice.
So
wow.
I think the next step will be nice to like be able to right click, add to quick favorites, or right click,
yes,
change shortcut,
or yes, I've been looking for that.
Yeah, or even better,
happy,
even better would be like if the menu is available on the screen, you could like open it and and show it or highlight it or something. That would be
Well, if you want to type the word you're searching,
yes,
otherwise the menu is just way too big.
that's true. Yeah.
Also,
Or like grouping.
do you know how Mac does this? They have something similar in a lot of their software.
Yeah.
It's part of it. So we start typing, it shows exactly which menu you should be clicking to get it there for the next time, which is nice. It helps the scrollability a bit further because it's actually in your face. But I like the Blender solution a bit more because
Really?
if you're still using the search menu every single time and ignoring the shortcuts, it's still super useful.
Yeah, it is nice. I would prefer the, like, I think the one that Mac does, it's even better because next time you know, oh, it's here. So you know next time when you're like maybe using the pen more or like you're not typing so much, you know what it is. Or it helps you discover other tools that are maybe in that that area that you didn't know. But it's really great. It's actually being it's experimental, but I hope it can be part of like replace the default. Oh, it's super nice. Then there's theme options. So this is my by the way, this is how I keep track of my recap. BlenderToday 96. Yeah, LA conference got canceled. That it's already on. Yeah, not canceled. It got moved. Don't cancel.
Yeah,
that's a better, more positive wording.
I'm glad it got moved. So Tom can participate.
Yes, it's true.
So,
it's true.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. It's the first one. Come on, how can Ton not be there? So there is also this one is for you guys. Actually, there is a new menu in the Blender menu under System that allows you to reload scripts, which you couldn't do any way before, except pressing F8 in 2.7 or.
Yeah, we put F8, right?
In not in Blender 2.8, right? But
I never rely on that for my own scripting.
I always press it all the time, but it's not very reliable. And then you're gonna have the debug menu, which also wasn't available anywhere except with the shortcut. And the redraw stuff for like profiling your operators. And
Question.
yes, sir.
Is the debug menu visible all the time or only because you have draw extra enabled?
The what?
But a lot of the, you know, in your user preference, you have the draw extra, developer extras.
The developer extras. Yeah, I think this should be.
Is why you get everything?
I
hope
know.
so, right?
It's always there, but I think we should hide it and put it in developers extra because really most people won't even care about the cleanup space data. Or like they don't even know to use that.
And debug menu as well.
Yeah, so, debug menu. I mean, it's also fun, but it's good to keep it a bit more clean, to keep everything more clean. There are new theme options. Well, I'm gonna list them all in the video that I'm making for the recap, but the one I most because we already talked about some of them, like the volume and the VR. We talked about it last week. But this cache for the video sequence editor made it in. Have you tried?
This is such a long way coming. Oh my god.
Yes.
Picard was working on this for, wow, since August, I think even. How old is the patch?
No, the patch is from March, but I don't know. The original patch is here. It's 5,000. Look, the number. D5000. And now we are like 7,000.
Oh, wow.
August 2019. This cache.
Wow.
It's now here. Wow. And
nice.
The good thing is, I mean, not only it speeds up now because it's basically takes all that you had in RAM, it puts it in the disk, so it's faster. But I like this part where he mentions like, hey, maybe this opens up for the future. We can store the thumbnails for the strips, which we don't have even yet. Or
that would be good.
Or use as an alternative for proxies.
Yeah. I've been using the video sequence editor again, of course, in the last week because of scripting for artists. Yeah. And now I see firsthand how much Richard has done, and it's really amazing. Like the whole feel is better, and it works so much better than previously.
And it looks much better. It looks much better, and that is thanks to the video sequencer team, to Alessio and the Tindwa team. They had now the strips here look much better. There is already a thread in the video. It looks much better, trust me. But basically, this feature didn't get in. Actually, there was a change in the drawing that it would make it so strips, they all have the same color. So you at least you know that every strip you know, because now if I add the same color as a movie strip, then it can be confusing. And they proposed, maybe that didn't make it into the patch, they proposed to have the color of the strip always as a, well, actually here maybe the color of the strip is gray, and never mind, didn't say anything. And then maybe that is the okay, maybe the top is the color and then the bottom is what changed it, but that it actually makes it when you collapse it, it actually goes away to make space. So nice. Anyway, everything is in the recap video. And this week, remember that, well, today we are also live. This week we had so many questions throughout the week on all the videos that I made with the community, talking about what people are doing on their everydays. You can find it on this YouTube channel, on the Blender Foundation YouTube channel. We talked about we had a special for sculpting, for modeling, for physics, and for NPR with grease pencil. We had 4 specials. And in all the specials, most of the questions were like for the artists, but there were also some other questions that, please, if you are watching this, go and leave them here in the Blender community, blender.community website on the developers Q&A thread, so we can go and ask and reply them. So I think if you guys don't have anything else to add, we can already go and jump into the questions.
That's one thing I think funny to share is the work that Jeroen been doing for the animation playback performance.
Oh, do you have the link?
I do have a few links.
Share it to me on share it on blender.chat.
Blender.chat.
Plugging all the social medias.
This is his weekly report, but on it you can find the animation playback performance and a few links for tasks on it.
So this is the week. So in case you didn't know, people at home, all the developers working for the Blender Foundation for Blender that are paid by the development fund, it's now since always they've been reporting every week what they did, bug fixes, code review, or the actual work. There's like every week say what they done. This week,
let's say I do two links. Maybe we can open the second one.
Okay.
See. They're related.
Let's see this one. Spring scene analysis. Yeah, we saw that last week, right?
We did. I don't remember. Okay, so that's just I think we did. So this is from that document, which you have all the flame charts. We then went over and created individual tasks for each of the scenes he's trying to tackle. And this is the other link I sent you. It's nice because just to how the development process works. Because it's so hard just to take a file and say, okay, let's improve it. And just to see where is the bottleneck, sometimes it doesn't give you the right answer.
So
for instance, one of them was proposing was to...
That's amazing.
For instance, try to not evaluate objects which were hidden from the camera, but then there's been some few problems. So it's kind of interesting. The project really, I really like how it's been structured and how it's moving forward.
Yeah, playback performance for the win. Also, it's so interesting to see what the guys have been doing. Like in this case, these are all bug fixes, but this is all code review. So when people are cheering for a new patch by Pablo Vazquez, remember there is behind every patch, amazing patch, there is amazing developer reviewing the code, like going through the code and answering, hey, this is fine, but then what happens in this line of code, and then the reply, and that's how you get the patch done. So that also takes time from developers. You know, when patches take time to be reviewed, or like features on, you know, what has happened with this feature? Well, it's because, you know, they take time to review so they can all align to the standard, the high standard of Blender code.
One thing interesting on that, so specifically talking about those patches, that a few of those patches were bug fixes. 3 of them in particular, and then Julian Casper.
Yep.
He was recording a few videos. I don't even know if he's announced yet, so doesn't matter. But he needed some of those fixes for the video, so he could do tutorials with the greatest Blender. And then he was asking, hey, Pablo, can this be fixed? And be fixed. But then he asked, hey, Jeroen, can you review it? But Pablo sent way too many patches. It's a nice thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
But
yeah.
But then what we did, like we can say, okay, so let's just prioritize those. Of course, we prioritize a bug fix over a new feature. That's usually how. So we had this coordinated. However, we also, one thing we did to provide a build for Julian, not so he could get this before everyone else, but so he could test that as well. As a company that everyone can help, because patch review, part of this is just testing it, if it breaks anything, to see if it still works with the other files.
All the tests, that's why it's important to make tests. Yep. So thank you for that. I'm gonna refresh this page for the last time live, which is a mistake. Maybe sometimes this takes forever. All right, let's start answering some questions. Let's go into that question zone area / First question by Yes Crumbles. Hi Pablo, will we get the asset manager? Yeah, I bet like most of the questions are gonna be asset manager or everything nodes, and let's try. If you're still writing questions, you can ask the animation developer. We have it down here, up here. So make sure, yeah, up there. He is working on the animation module in Blender. I'll import, export, Alembic, USD. So that's the guy. Ask your questions. Right. Let's continue. So when will the asset manager? Will we get the asset manager library for 2.83? No. Absolutely not. You're not gonna get not only the asset manager, but no new features. We reached the stage of 2.83 where it's like, okay, we got enough. And you have seen it. You've seen VR, sequencer, new object type, modifier stuff, grease pencil, like the list keeps going up. Face sets, adaptive sampling. What else? It's just so many things that developers need to say, okay, this is enough. Let's fix everything that it's in, and let's move into whatever is new development for later. In this case, Blender 2.9, halfway this year. It's everything like Corona is not really affecting the release cycle much.
No, it's not. Again, like everyone was working remotely, right? If it has to affect, we do it. It doesn't matter. But
yeah,
not that I can tell. I mean, it does affect in the sense that, for instance, Cibran had to be pulled from some of the Alembic and USD work to work. Had to. We decided it would be nice for him to produce the scripts for this project.
Yeah.
So it gets a little bit on the way. Sergey might do some content as well. Stay tuned. We had
sneak peek.
We have 2 developers being affected by that, as in like for different reasons.
Yeah.
So, but it's overall things should be fine. It shouldn't be.
Okay, but not sick. Not sick. I hope.
One of them sick, yes.
Oh.
But mostly like sick, and then the family and children at home, and then the girlfriend is a nurse. So.
Oh gee, yeah, there is a bunch.
Just pile up.
Yeah,
have to take more time with kids, but it's all fine. I mean,
but people
Blender
get sick all the time anyway, so it's kind of.
But I'm still like behind everything. So thank everyone for the continuous support.
Yes, thank you everyone. Actually, and before we jump into this, just a nice thanks to Intel software. I don't know if you've seen it, like to this morning was 191,000 and now it's 93.4, because it means that one of the sponsors, Intel software, was a corporate silver here with Adidas, Studio Cara, Blender Market, Google, and others, and they moved into level up. They did like some kind of like level up with I put the you can listen guys, but I put the music from Mario. Level up in the into corporate goal. So now it's here hanging out with Tangent, Embark, David Jeske, Ubisoft, and CGGE Institute. So very nice that it gives it a little bump, which pays for developers such as Pablo, Cibran, Pablo Dobarro, Dalai Felinto, Brecht van Lommel, Sergey Sharvin, Clement Foucault /Evie, Sebas, Mantaflow, and hair particles and stuff. Bastian,
Sebastian Pablo, Jeroen
Bakker,
like the one working on animation playback and added Evie,
Julian Eisel,
UI VR is there because of the development fund. So partially because also Google Summer of Code, but still, hey, it's a good thing to do. So anyway, little plug. It's kind of paying for this channel anyway. So all right, let's go to the second question. Will there be more procedural physics simulation? We actually talked about this in the live stream from 2-3 days ago. Check it. It's called Physics Special, so go check that one. and we talk about the new things. I can't. I need to be logged in. My Blender ID, and I was kicked out. I removed the cookies.
Oh no!
Yeah, I removed the cookies. Here, okay, now I can like that. Yes, we're working on an improvement on this website, by the way. It's just well, we are all locked up. Anyway, next question.
That's good to know.
Yeah, like well, it's not an improvement, but it's like this system, just a small derail. It's 5 years old, and for this anniversary, we are completely rewriting it to a new system that it would be much more fun to use. The Tweak tool, another topic, in modeling mode will not allow me to drag more than 1 point. I thought it was a bug. I've been told it wasn't. It's an industry standard to select from the empty area automatically without any shortcuts, and also shift select using the Tweak tool. Is there any reason why don't we have this standard in Blender? The Tweak tool in modeling mode would not allow me to drag more than 1 point.
I think what's happening is that the person is not setting the point. Oh no, even if it's selected, it's happening that, right?
I mean, 2.8 we already have the you can drag on an empty area to select, but in probably when you start dragging it, like here, you drag and then you move, and it doesn't. Because not sure, because drag and move. With G, yeah, with G you can, but no with a click. I think he's doing it with a click, with the Tweak tool. Not sure why not. Maybe try reporting it as a bug. If it's supposed to work that way, can you click and drag? No, you can't click and drag individual items. Can you? No. Oh yeah, you can. And if you try, you can't drag select. Okay, you can't box select, and then you need to go to the Tweak tool to start moving. Yeah, not. I don't know that workflow in particular. I always use shortcuts. But maybe it's worth reporting. Maybe it's just a matter of tweaking the, like all the tools are there.
Tweaking
maybe it's
the
just
Tweak tool.
Tweaking
the Tweak tool.
Yes, tweaking the Tweak tool. Maybe it's just a matter of tweaking the key map. Next question, next droid. Hello, Pablo. Last time I posted a question and you said you have 2 question developers. Here we are. Yes, true. Sorry. Is that sometimes, we're talking with artists and it's a completely different topic. But now is the right moment. I checked and found nothing about the meaning of watt for light power used in Blender. Yeah, actually, we already answered this question back in the days. Can you explain how Blender simulates light power and the meaning of watts for lights in Blender? Is watt an equivalent to a bulb light or a LED light or any type of light power?
Good question. I thought watt was universal, but it's not, right? It's
no, lumen is a universal, I think, right? Watts in LED.
I think I asked Brecht about this at some point, and it's hard to remember the answer. It was a while ago, but basically, the meaning differs between different light types, because like the emission from a point light is quite different than emission from an area light, because a point light in reality it doesn't exist. So it's kind of tricky to have these virtual lamps that wouldn't exist in real life and then map them still to a real value. So that's why I think the meaning is a little bit vague, because it's so different between lamp types.
Okay, so the solution probably will be to move to something that is about, because it's energy, it's power, right? So maybe it could be lumens.
Yeah.
Isn't
that would be better.
If you go to a store and buy a 60 watts lamp, is it always? No, but then it's different, right? It's a LED lamp, or do they?
It says in the package. You have to read the package and then.
Yeah, no, it's different per type of light, and often they used to have anyway, like these conversions to like old-fashioned tungsten light. Well, I think that happens less and less, and you can put a resistor in parallel, like in series with the light, and then you use more power, or use less. You influence the amount of power used by the light, and it doesn't have any impact on the light itself. So
yeah,
watts is kind of useless for lights.
I will, maybe this is good to ask when we have Brecht. Last week we actually had Brecht. It would have been a great time to ask, but maybe we can have him again next week. I don't know how long I plan to do this every day, so I think at the what?
No, sorry. The next week is the code quality day.
Ah.
Well, it could be something special. Could maybe
It's a 6 p.m.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Look, it's
I'm
still
just
at 5.
head up, so.
No, but it's a Q&A, right? For Q&As.
Yeah, I guess so. It could be.
Question: Boolean plus bevel. Some questions. Any updates on the Boolean and bevel improvements by Howard? Dalai, do you know?
Another know of. As far as I know, it's still his project, but I don't know when. Until there's a patch and he's being asking for a review.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be said.
The same with the destructive struct tool. This is one of the patches. It was mentioned last week, but do you know if there has been any updates?
This was the one by Scorpion, right?
Yeah.
The destructive, the one, some guy from Fracture modifier.
It was here in the we talked about it last week actually.
Yeah. The idea for the destructive extrude is that we're gonna try to review it soon. Have it, and Kemba already did the first pass of review. I don't know what's the current status, but it's something only for 2.90, not for 2.83.
Yeah, no. And you can also, for example, follow the news here. For example, when testing the patch, in this case, for example, when you wonder about those things, it's better maybe just look for it in the developer blog, or just keep an eye on the number. Like if you remember, like what I have is like a Google, some notes. Where I just keep the numbers of the things I want to keep an eye on, or you can also subscribe to a task. In this case, D5336 is the one with the destructive extrude, where you can see, for example, the developers. That is not like it's been abandoned. You can see like the discussion going on and off. Germano, which has also been working for Blender, he's been testing the patch. It's and giving some feedback about the asserts that it's getting. What is an assert? For non-developers.
Stephen, do you want to cover that one?
What is an asset?
Very simple. It's when something happens that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
That's something that happened.
Is that an error?
Well, and for when you're writing software, you're always making assumptions, right? You always think, well, this value is always between 0 and 1, and maybe this pointer will never be null. You always make assumptions. And asserts are basically a way to put that assumption into code so that you can say, well, I'm asserting here this count should not be bigger than that count. Like the number of vertex colors should not be bigger than the number of vertices, just to give a stupid example.
Yeah.
And it is really helpful for other developers to see what the assumptions are in the code that you've written. And when you enable debug mode in Blender, like when you have a debug build, those asserts will actually show on the console. And if you configure it in a different way, it will actually crash Blender. So as soon as something unexpected happens, it will just stop whatever's going on and will tell you why and in which part of the code. So it's a really useful tool.
Really useful.
It's a way to catch something early on, because if this data, if let's say we assume you're dealing with a mesh and then you have a curve, you just don't have an assert. In Blender, it would probably not even be possible to go through that. Maybe it would. If you keep going down the line with the code, something's going to be, the crash or whatever's going to happen is going to be very unpredictable.
Yeah.
But if early on you say, you know what, this is supposed to be a mesh, if it's not, stop right now and let me know. Makes for more predictable.
Yeah, like a validation. We have someone in the chat side saying, yeah, it's kind of a validation. And then, will we ever be refactored the not so simple deform modifier? Simple deform modifier. Will we ever be refactored?
Yeah. Maybe.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
What's the not simple deform modifier?
I don't know. Like why refactor? I mean, what's wrong about it? We need to point the. I don't know. Actually, I haven't seen anybody working on that area. So it's quite difficult to use the bent deformer because it assumes the object to be aligned in a certain way. But that doesn't have to be with a refactor. A refactor is just rewriting, and maybe some things can be improved, or performance, but not really functionality. Next question. Hey,
No,
from
it's
other.
really hard.
Yeah, sorry.
It's really hard to change the functionality of modifiers and of constraints because they are applied all the time. It's non-destructive workflow. So if we change Blender to change the behavior of such a modifier, you open your blend file, all of a sudden you see something else than you expected. So it's hard to really change around.
Yeah, especially when you want to keep compatibility, right?
Yes.
So Blender 3.
And maybe, yeah. Like I think when we go to nodes, then the modifiers and constraints can become simpler. And what is now one modifier or one constraint maybe becomes 3 or 5 ones that like simpler ones that you combine into this Uber modifier or this Uber constraint. And that way will give us more flexibility of changing things around, because your particular recipe of finding those nodes in your node tree won't change just because we changed the recipe. So that may actually give a path towards more freedom for developers as well, and more power for users.
Thanks. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And interesting how some of the modifiers can become, or constraints gonna become a bunch of nodes. Like, what is that? Presets. Next question. So in modeling, there's two important steps, I guess, to speed up modeling missing in Blender, which I already talked about it in my right-click select. There is the to select vertex edge face from behind. All software give you the choice to enable this. Select vertices from behind, but in Blender, each time I need to use X-ray to select from behind most of my modeling, I never use this. Sorry?
Blender is known for having the cycling option. If you keep clicking it,
it goes to the ones behind.
Yeah, and if you click out and select, you get the whole list of. But this for object mode. For edit mesh mode, I think just cycles through the further towards the front.
Yeah.
Right? You know that. You use that all the time.
I use that all the time, but for selection maybe. Next questions. Are there any plans to add the ability to draw primitives in the viewport? As in?
Yes, as in the tool, right?
Yes, like the add cube tool in object mode, which is not there, but it was a plan. It was planned to have this kind of easy, quick way to add a line to the view wherever you click to add a primitive that you could even tweak afterwards. And there was a proof of concept, the add cube by Campbell, but it would never really move forward. I think nobody else worked on it.
If you ever implemented the full parametric object, the actual primitive, if people want, so they can, you know the deal, they can change the parameters all the way throughout the life cycle of the asset, of the object, then maybe it doesn't make sense to have a tool to then create a primitive as well.
Well, I mean, for sculpting, we really need one. I'm talking with Pablo Navarro. He said, yeah, that instead of adding, people ask if he would add the ability to add primitives from within sculpt mode. He said that it's better maybe to improve the way that Blender switches from mode to mode, so that way it everywhere you get, you know, benefits. So to make that better. Next question. Hello and thank you for all your great work. I have a question. Are there any plans to improve the text objects, even just to be able to animate the text context? I know we can do this with animation nodes, but this is hacky and crashes a lot. Just the ability to key or drive the text itself will be a great improvement. Yeah, animation nodes, I guess. Oh, the line left. No, improvements for the text object. I haven't seen ones lately. Dalai.
Yes.
Hello. Have you seen any improvements on the or patches for the text objects?
You know, I was just out of the Hangout for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I actually haven't. Besides animation nodes.
There's this. Now we are open for we would accept patches for that, but no one's actively working on those.
Yeah.
I think I still have a patch for some of the alignment fixes, but that's such a small thing. You know, what people really want is
animate the text,
like animation nodes or generate text and things that with animation nodes, with the everything nodes, maybe more of this can be possible.
Or imagine if you gotta add, you can type something, add a keyframe, type something else, add a keyframe, have interpolation between them. That would be very nice.
I know people are doing already a lot of this with the animation project.
Yeah.
The animation node and everything else. So I think some of this might
yeah, it will be definitely be a great improvement. I don't know who is the old module owner of text.
Campbell and me, but Campbell.
Okay.
If you don't know, you can go to the developer.blender.org and module
owner.
And then
yeah. So for people that want to know who to blame, it's a developer. There's no text section though.
It's like modeling.
It's like modeling / mesh. Next.
My name is not even listed there anymore. So.
Can we expect an asset manager later this year or 2021?
We don't like to promise things which are not ready, but the development definitely starts this year. We have the final approved design for the first iteration in the blog in code.blender.org, and this is the design I'm going to be pursuing. And Julian's going to be available to work on this after he wraps up VR, and he's going to work a little bit on overrides to help the UI part of the overrides, and then he's going to dive into the assets manager.
Yep.
Still in the map for this year. This is first milestones, its first iterations. Definitely.
Thank you. Next question. Hi Pablo, what about destructive extrude? We already talked about it. Some questions. Will there be a MPM simulation engine? Maybe something like Disney Matterhorn. What about snow simulation? Everything nodes. Physics.
I don't know, Pablo Vazquez. What is the NPM?
NPM simulation engine is a material point method for simulating continuum materials, like the one from Disney. Physically based simulation. It's for like I think they show it off for the snow simulation kind of a thing.
Right. I think I know the video. I've seen it.
The video of the simulation, yeah, for Frozen. No, I don't know actually. I don't have no news on that. I don't.
Usually the solvers and engines that integrated with Blender are projects that existed outside of Blender even.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of this being standalone library that we can use and be compatible with the Blender license.
Yeah.
So it's not like we can just. I don't know if it's the case. I need to go do some research on that.
Any plans for animation denoising? Animation denoising? No, but it's animation, but it's actually denoising. You're muted.
Otherwise, you hear me typing when I talk to other people.
That's okay.
But animation denoising is something that is very common when you deal with motion capture data, for example. That is typically very noisy and it needs to be denoised as well. I've heard a few people talk about wanting to have better motion capture tooling and complaining that we don't put it in there. But, well, there's a good reason, because we don't use motion capture in our own projects.
Yeah.
And it's kind of expensive. Like, there are some open source mocap suits come to market, which are quite interesting and promising. But still, it's really a niche territory.
It is a niche territory, but there is actually in the Blender conference from last year. It's in Blender conference 2019. Was it core data? The here you can find there is they do open hardware and open software for motion capture. I mean, it's still gonna be, it's not as cheap as regular animation, I guess, because you don't need the the equipment, but it's a really good option, and it's I think they have even they're planning to have like a some kind of Patreon or Kickstarter to fund it, but it's open hardware and it's open source, so it's and they're also working on a plugin for Blender, and they were at the Blender conference, so it's nice to give them a shout out for people that are interested in motion capture. Next,
I even got one of their systems from Midge, because he didn't have the time to solder it all together, and he gave it to us to give a try. But sorry, Midge, I still have to solder it together myself.
Wow, look at that. When you see so many people gather, it's like I'm looking at the video of it's like I miss people. Okay, next, that was the Blender conference. So I hope this is over for October. Let's cross fingers.
But again, we always talked about that, right? There are more people watching this live stream live now than they were attending that talk. So great what we can do over the internet. So
it's true. So thank you, people, for hanging out. Yeah, awesome. Next, next question. Will there be some performance improvements on DynTopo? No, that I know. DynTopo.
There are topo tools?
No, DynTopo, dynamic topology.
Oh, you know the post by Pablo on removing dynamic topology?
Yeah, not removing. Hey, actually, he was here in the live stream, maybe or the Spanish one, that he was talking about how people went nuts because everybody thought he's gonna remove DynTopo, but he proposed to just not support it anymore, so which is not the same as removing. As in, no, don't work on it anymore, which is not the same. It's not the same.
I know, and he wanted to integrate for the tools that really require it.
Yeah, like
the snake brush and the other one. I know, just
because the if you remove it, then it's a completely different step than it stops supporting. The thing is that if someone reports a bug, then you don't have people spending time, people that are, you know, like geniuses. I don't know, you get Brecht or Campbell like breaking their head and spending time that they could spend in other areas working on that. Next question. Is light path expressions for custom AOBs in the planning, the one which Ubisoft have been discussing? Expressions for custom AOB. This is a great question for Brecht. Not that I know.
Light path expressions for custom AOBs.
Yeah, custom AOB, arbitrary output value, like, you know, the Blender AOBs that we have now in cycles, that you can output any part of
what would be a light path expression?
It's pretty advanced. It's not using just an output of a node, but actually write your own expression to handle arbitrary light passes. And it was a request by Ubisoft, actually. Not a request, but like a question by Ubisoft. And there is a discussion going on here, so maybe we can poke. I bet the developers are here. I bet Brecht must be here in this thread at some point. Here, Brecht.
He's replied.
Yeah. Next question. What's the news on Animation 2020 and the improvements of Blender animation tools? I think we have the right guy here to answer, so unmute yourself and let us know everything about the improvements of the Blender animation tools. Let's talk a bit about what the ones you already did regarding constraint fixes and overall fixes, because people say animation, no one's looking at that, but they are.
Oh yes, and Sebastian Parborg is doing a lot of animation stuff as well, and improvement fixes and that kind of thing. I've been working together with this UI developer called Pablo Vazquez on improving some of the UI and the editors for the animation tools. But there are more plans, and this is mainly having better caching support for animation. I saw that was another question in your list. Right now, loading Alembic files is done through a modifier, which kind of works when you deal with meshes, but it doesn't work well for other data like camera properties or for lights and like arbitrary data. You can't really load in through a modifier, and even curves you cannot load in through a modifier because a modifier will always output a mesh. So that's really limiting. And what I'm thinking about is having an extra layer in the animation system, especially for caches, so that you have the first stuff loaded from DNA, from the blend file if it's there. That then it can be loaded from a cache. And then on top of that, you have the F curves and the driver system and everything we know in the animation system. But then we can load pretty much anything from a cache instead of just meshes. And that, I think, is the key to getting better cache support, cache flow, I wanted to say. Better caching, faster animation, better handling of generically cached data. There's a lot of questions about
into Blender or from Blender as well. Like you could use that format when you're working in Blender, not necessarily with other softwares, but in your own animations, right? Like the animator at the studio could, like, once they're done, they can just dump everything in Alembic files, and in the lighters, for example, can pick those files up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then the lighters can just scrub through the file without having to recompute all the constraints and all the rigs and everything. It would just be loaded meshes,
which is so much faster.
Yeah. One of my end goals is that, like, my fantasy, basically, where I want to go to is that you would have a collection in Emulator, and you can just say cache this. Just click a button and it will write it out to Alembic or USD or whatever file format we choose, and remove it from memory and load in the cache. And that should just stream into the blend file. It shouldn't take up extra space like Alembic import is doing now. And then when you want to work on it, you should be able to just click on uncache, and then it should remove the Alembic stuff and load in the original data again, so that you can modify it. And that easy toggling between cached and editable data, that is what I want to go to.
Wow, that sounds like a dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, especially and
I think it should be possible, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
how far is it?
It's just a lot of work.
Is it like many years ahead, or maybe it's like?
Yes, I think so, especially with me being the only one really working on this and working 4 days a week, and then doing 2 days a week bug tracker duties, and then 1 day a week of store support and cloud support, and doing stuff with the dev fund side, and then also 1 day a week on actual new development,
actual code. So the answer: join the development cloud, please. The development cloud, the development fund.
The development cloud.
Yes. Then part of the question also says, please, I beg you to look into Casualtor physics-based animation for guidance on how to develop the tools. Do you know what is this? I am actually not familiar. Casualtor? I don't even know how to say it. The physics-based animation software. The one that is they released like one video that went viral.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, it was very popular on Twitter like last year or something. Like one of those demos that you see that looks amazing, but then in the end you don't know how is the rest of the software.
I've never seen it either, but it looked like one of those ragdoll systems, or
kind of. It seems to be physics based, so you kind of keyframe the basic points, and then it will calculate the rest based on physics, which is amazing. It's really nice. But I wonder, like maybe it looks fine on a low resolution. I don't know. I'm already skeptic with this thing.
Well, I've seen a lot of research material on, like, research articles about having physics and keyframe animation together, and it always looks very promising. But I'm still waiting for some really, indeed, like, more product made into a product instead of just a proof of concept. something
Yeah.
that actually works that animators also want to use.
Oh no, but yeah, but animators is like a big word, right? Because if you show this to a big like a AAA animator from Pixar, or they are gonna be like, no, just improve the tools for animation, keep frame by frame, and I'm gonna be happy, because they want to be able to control each one of those. You know, the actual, like, bring the character alive. And here, this is a different kind of animation. It's maybe more loose, maybe more like for game animation. So just, yeah, it's the world of animation is here. So even animation 2020 is super ambitious. So far we got some improvements in the drawings of the animation editors, which are fixes for everyone, or constraints also.
I like their onion skinning a lot. Sorry, just to wrap it
up.
Oh,
the flat onion skinning. Yeah, there was an item for that in Blender some time ago.
Okay.
Question for Dr. Sibren. What potential does Blender's armature system have for optimization in general? More specifically, I've noticed that drawing and selecting bones becomes progressively slower as the number of bones in the armature increases. The time of looking at bones, children, is a choke point in many of my Python scripts. I was wondering, why is this?
Cool. There's a lot of different questions in there. One thing, like the armature system in itself, like optimization, I think.
Is there room?
One thing I've heard about anyway is like a new scanning algorithm that's called elastic scanning. And it would be something that is like an option that you could turn on and off maybe in Blender. But that seems very promising if you look at the results that they get. So I would love, if I ever get the time, I would love to implement that in Blender. So this is not a promise that this is coming, but it is on my radar and I'm aware of it. So that will be one optimization for Blender's armature system. It's not so much a performance animation thing like Joseph is talking about, but it is an optimization for the actual output of the armature. And maybe even you would need less bones to get a realistic result.
Yeah. I know Don is very a fan of this method. He's always like, when we get elastic, he's pushing for it.
There you go. Good.
So in terms of optimization,
there's a quadratic time of looking at bones in children. I would say poke me on Twitter, on our own Blender chat about that, because that shouldn't happen. And maybe it is something in the way that with the lookup is done, but this is really, I think, too specific to answer to without all the details.
Yeah. So if you have a demo file, that's even better.
That would be perfect.
Something that you just run a script, and as you see, you can profile how long it took. Even you in Python, you can probably like profile it within the script, see how much time it took, and then just work on improving it. Yeah. Next.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, we reached the time. It's 6 o'clock. I don't know. Well, you work for Blender, so maybe this is kind of an allowed time, but you probably reach out your enough hours per day. So what do you guys think if we do 5 more questions? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So 5 more questions. Next one is, we have optics viewport denoising, but none for people with non-RTX cards. Why is Blender stopping from using the Intel denoiser in the viewport?
Well, we don't have, I mean, there was announced recently by Kronos the open standard denoising, or real-time ray tracing, sorry.
Yeah, ray tracing.
And without that, we cannot do anything. Without the denoising API and AI denoising being available as an open standard, there's nothing you can do to support that in Intel.
No.
So I know there's some people with some hacks to allow this, but this just leads to unpredictable results on the line. So we're just waiting. It's a waiting game. Just poke Intel.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Intel, the Intel denoiser wasn't implemented by Blender itself. It was an outside contribution. So I don't know why. Maybe it's a different technology. Maybe it doesn't even have to do anything to do with the optics and RTX, because it's a different technology. But
the thing is, since Intel is still involved with Blender development, and as you showed, actively even upgraded their support to the dev fund.
Thank you, Intel.
maybe just a matter of time for them to reaching out and make sure we have this. I'm pretty sure they have Blender inside. They know, they follow Blender. They have some developers following closer. I know that Sergey is always talking to them. So
yeah. So thank you. Next question number 4. Actually, it's the same question as before. It's for Sivran. If you looked into the physical based animation like this other software, and we already answered that. There is a lot of work to be done for the exporters and animation part, but what would that be? Something to be considered to work on? No. That's we already answered that actually. I thought it was a different question. So next question by Dalina Palma. Hi guys, light linking has been on the Cycles roadmap for a while. I was wondering how this is going. I don't know what.
It's not going because, well, let's put it in a different way.
Brecht talked about it last week.
No, my point is the developers we have potentially working with Cycles or Brecht and Sergey. And Brecht is working, his coding days has been dedicated to now adaptive sampling.
Yeah.
And forgot the other thing was wrapping up
volume objects.
Yeah, but there was something else he mentioned this week. But basically, adaptive sampling. The next thing I'd love him to work on is actually displacement baking, because people have been asking a lot. Julian Casper, people in the Animation Studio have been asking in the Animation Studio. But we are again. I think there was a light link patch by, I guess, Tangent at some point, no?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't tried it myself, but I hope it can be. I mean, there is a patch already, so it's a matter of reviewing. I don't know about where it's in the roadmap. There are many other things for Cycles in the roadmap at the moment.
Yeah, but anything that's a patch has been actively reviewing a lot of them. So.
Okay, it's just too many. So maybe this year, hopefully this year. Like light linking is one of the things I missed from Blender Internal. Eternal. Oh. Next question. Question number 3. Let's see. Well, you people are really awesome. Thanks to all of you for your developing Blender. Thank you for developing Blender, guys.
It's a pleasure.
You're amazing at developing Blender. It's just so nice that you managed to just make things and share it with everybody. So thank you for working on it. Things like, the question is, things like deformation physics. A bike suspension deforming, for example. People tend to do that with animation nodes. Is there any way around to do such deformation simulation with physics? I didn't find, though, there's any chance that it's gonna come to Blender? Bike suspension.
Shaka's working on like animation nodes like System for Particles already. And I don't think he will stop at particles.
No.
So at some point, I think animation nodes will be in Blender itself, maybe in a different form. And if different, I'm sure it will be better.
Sky's the limit. And we're going to have Jacques-Luc actually next week. So stay tuned. Nice. Yes, subscribe to the Blender Foundation YouTube channel and you're going to get these questions. You can ask this question directly to the boy himself. Jacques-Luc is going to be also with Simon. So we're going to get an artist and developer together talking about everything.
Oh, nice.
Everything nodes, but not the project. Well, maybe the project, but just, you know, you get it. Everything related to nodes. Next question. And that was number 3. Number 2. Hi, Pablo. In which version of Blender will get the animation nodes officially launched? In none of them. Animation nodes is an add-on. So when that functionality comes into Blender, it's not going to be animation nodes. It's going to be something else. Because Blender itself is going to be something else, right? Everything nodes doesn't mean like animation nodes just comes in. It's just, well, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I mean, it's different. There's a lot of overlap, and honestly, might over time make the animation node obsolete. Yeah. But they have its own. They have their separate roadmaps, and at least the particles nodes is expected for 2.90. Summer 2020.
December 2020?
No, summer.
Summer in this hemisphere, which means August.
Yeah, it's the Corona summer.
Yeah, Corona summer. Next,
opposite of the Pokemon Go summer.
Oh, sad. Top 10 sad moments. Top anime sad moments. All right. So, but we again next week. Jack Luke, creator of animation nodes, developer working full time for Blender. Full time, right? On everything.
Yeah, full time. Not hours, I think. But
a lot of time.
It's finishing up his school. That's the thing. It's finishing university.
Okay.
That's all.
Next question. Hey, Pablo and Blender developers. My question is way back in 2006. 2.47 or 8? No.
The memories.
that is 2.46. I think 2.47 is from 2008 because 247 is the release of Big Bang Bunny. Know your Blender releases, people. 2008 was also the year of Blender 2.48, which is the Yo Frankie release. There was a project called Blenderverse using the Verse protocol that worked and was shipped briefly in one of those builds. Yeah, I remember. It allowed multiple Blenders to be connected to a server and edit data live together. Yes, it will be great for a team working remote. Yeah, do you see that even happening in the future for Blender?
Yeah, Sibren, do you wanna take that one? Do you know about the Omniverse?
I've heard about it, yes. Like the NVIDIA Omniverse project, you mean?
Yes, which is one of the hypes around the USD and then
yes. So yes, this is exactly what USD was envisioned for.
Really?
And well,
live collaboration.
Not really working like collaboration and having teams working on the same assets, being able to switch out assets and without having to update all the files that use those assets.
Yeah.
And to get a grip on that. And I think that is the right approach, that having this kind of freedom to work as a team and to, hey there, this freedom to work as a team with your files is really something for the file system that you're using. For the file format that you're using, and not so much something for the application itself. I mean, I can't imagine working with like all these different people in the same blend file at the same time. That's going to be really messy.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you make a mistake and then you undo, but by the time that you undo, somebody else also did something, and it's like
and with
so many things to take.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get that right, whereas with files on disk, it's much easier, and there's much more experience already in the world when it comes to working together on different files.
And
so
imagine if it doesn't even go full all the time right for Google with Google Docs, but it's just text basically that you need to pass around. Imagine with binaries and textures. And what if I add a 10K image? What are you going to see? You see a placeholder, your internet cap goes crazy. I don't know. It's
so I think it's a great idea, and we will do that once we're done with Blender.
Okay. When Blender is finished.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
You didn't hear? Blender is gonna be finished in like next year. Imagine when a software is finished. When is a software finished? Never.
Never. I remember.
I love that there's LaTeX, which is a scientific markup language for making scientific articles and writing mathematical formulas and stuff. And the version number of that is actually going towards E, which is the mathematical constant. It's like pi.
Yeah.
It's 2.7 something, and then it has like an infinite number of digits. And they acknowledge the fact that it will never reach the end, but also at some point it's working with text. At some point it's quite done. Like smaller things can be improved, and these improvements become smaller and smaller. So I think if I'm quoting this correctly, the first version was 2.
Yeah.
And then the next version that was released was 2.7. And then the next version that was released was 2.7 something. And every release adds a new digit. So it will never become 2.8. But it will go towards E, and the increments in the version number are smaller and smaller, and smaller, just as the increments in the software. I think it's mathematically really beautiful.
It looks very nice, just like Blender version numbering.
Yeah. It's hell to market this, though.
Yes, All right, so I think we reached the end of the questions, but these were the first ones asked. So, and actually this one, the second one to last one is very nice. So let's answer them. Why can't we set the vertex position upper than 10,000 units in edit mode?
Well, I think that's because of the finite precision of a computer.
Yeah.
So, like, there's only like there's always a bit in between one number and the next number. And if you say at a distance of between 0 and 1 meter, 1 bit is maybe a micron. It's really tiny, and you have a great precision. But once you get to between 0 and kilometers, 1 could be meters and meters. So the further you get away from the origin, the less precision you have left. So
yes, yesterday
What?
we had Gleb Alexander talking about this problem, showing all the glitches that you get when you move too far from the center. This is related.
oh yes, we've had problems with Spring even because of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say
Not
possible.
the season.
It just is one of the soft limits in the UI. If you actually change it manually, you can go high.
You can
Probably
even
as
get
high
higher.
as-
But
well,
then you're
just
you're
5.
prone to more of these glitches
You
issues.
should do it.
Yeah.
You should
Yeah.
do it.
So
But
do it.
unless you're using a different scale and then you don't want to change your units.
Yeah. But even then, if you want to learn more about this, yesterday I made a modeling special with Gleb Alexandrov, Rachel, and Eddie Burrows. So go check it out. And the last question, well, I already went over time, and you're probably tired of this, and your beard is gone. But this is a very nice question to end. Is like, what IDE software does the core development team use to develop Blender? For example, the ones we have here are communication, sending code snippets back and forth, and eventually to master, like Visual Studio, probably open source. So which ones do you use? One at a time.
Dalai,
start.
This often developer.blender.org itself, as it has a paste. So
for sending code.
Developer.blender.org/paste. But often I would also try to use the haste theme, just because I have a script which just pastes whatever I type into that site, but the site sometimes is not online.
Hastebin is open
That's
source.
for snippets.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Hastebin is open source, by the way.
The space bean and the haste bean, I always get confused. Yeah, the haste bean is the open
yeah.
source one. And sometimes it's not working, it was offline, so I did not use the developer.blender.org, which is our own web server and whatnot. But for development, I use VS Code. I try to use tools that are cross-platform.
VS Code, which is open source.
Yes.
VS Code is from Microsoft, but it's open source. Believe it or not.
And it's cross-platform. They have it for Linux, Windows, and I suppose Mac as well. So for me, for years, I was switching between Mac and Windows or Mac and Linux, and so I tried to have a workflow that could be agnostic when it comes to OS. How about you, Sibren?
For me, pretty much the same thing. Since Visual Studio Code, I've been using that. Before that, I've used Vim a lot and GVim. And for C++ and C, I used to use Qt Creator.
Yeah.
But now I'm hooked to Visual Studio Code. Also, for like C in my electronics project when I'm coding, like on a microcontroller, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I quite like it.
So Visual Studio Code, VS Code.
Yes, that
cool.
one.
Actually, I don't know why I started using Qt Creator. So I'm not a developer, but sometimes I mess with the code. And I found Qt Creator to be very nice for searching, and it was very, very fast to search and compile and everything in there. But I never actually tried Visual Studio Code for actual Blender code. Only I used it for web development. But I guess you get the same kind of feature.
It has plenty. It has a lot of plugins as well, which for me is one of the things which is really interesting. So for instance, when I'm doing manual, editing the Blender manual, I can also use VS Code and have a preview as a little browser. Or from using database, which I'm doing recently for analyzing the traffic for bug tracking and whatnot. There's also like database specific plugins allows you to run a query in a SQLite database, get all the results. So I think they have everything there. That's my impression.
Yeah. All right.
So
So
for me, the killing feature was the git lens.
git
The
lens.
ability to show in every line who committed that line and what happened. For me, that what made me to go over.
So you can see,
And
you
I don't
can
even use
blame.
it nowadays.
You can blame
Right?
people from within the software.
Oh yes, and it even has a very cool feature that is line history. So you can look at the line history panel, and then you see exactly all the commit messages for that particular line in the code. Because Blender has sometimes really, really huge files of thousands and thousands of lines of code. The history for the whole file can be like not that interesting, but for that particular line, that really helps.
Yes, and you can find files that are maybe 20-year-old.
Oh yes, recently I even found some Dutch in the source code.
Still, there's still Dutch.
Still. Oh yes, I left it in.
Ah, of course. Yeah, at some point that should be translated. Actually, for just a funny, just a funny thing that the Blender development, when it moved from being a paid software, well, free but non-open source, to be open source, one of the biggest things wasn't just like, you know, releasing the software, but was to translate all the Dutch comments. Blender is Dutch, if you didn't know. So yeah, it's funny how that happens. All the Dutch variable names.
Was it a Blender? Was a commentary in Dutch or was a variable name in Dutch?
Function name.
Function name.
Function name was bereken y, or calculate y.
Wow. Even if I was looking at the code and I don't know Dutch, I would probably just think it's something else. It's like, oh, okay, this is a method, I don't know, from some, you know, Dutch have a lot of scientists along the day, so maybe it was a guy that invented a formula, I don't know.
Yeah. Mr. Bereken.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, I think we reached the end of the show. Thank you guys for staying until the end. It's been awesome to have you here to answer the questions. It's I think it's fun. We should do it again.
My pleasure.
I think I think it's working out the Friday Q&A show. That works.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Sounds good. When can we see your next tutorial, Siren? Monday?
Saturday?
What? We're releasing on weekends?
Yes. Oh, of course.
Oh.
I mean, we're all sitting home anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Well, then even better. So just subscribe to the Blender Foundation YouTube channel. Like, press subscribe somewhere here, and you're gonna get the notification about this new tutorial on what's the difference between for loops and while.
For and while loops. Yes.
I'm so curious. I want to know now. All right. Dalai,
Yes.
how are you doing? How's Animal Crossing going?
I was doing fantastic. I got so many cherries today.
Wow. So I guess the quarantine is just going just fine as usual.
Yeah, I hate it, but that's life as well. So
We need to stay inside.
work is fine. Honestly, the big problem we had this week was DDoS.
DDoS, yeah, the Blender servers got attacked. Why would you attack an open source software?
Almost void when it comes to work. So
yeah, so it's a bit slower. But thanks for keeping an eye on all the developers. I know you are giving their daily poke. I think that's probably most of your day spent in like doing this, basically, like live, like with a video cam. Is like
that's a bit different. Like on Mondays about checking on weekly report. There's 17, right? Just go over 17 weekly reports, see if their plan for the next week is sound. Otherwise, tell them, hey, what if you do something different this week? And then every day just being around if someone has a question. So the daily poke's a little bit of this. Just, hey, dear developer, Sibran, how was today? Anything eventful? Anything you need? Sometimes people need someone to review their code or someone to... That's how I got, for instance, the patch I mentioned about the room. Because Dolaro told me to get them reviewed first, if possible. So I talked to the room, and that's... Just make sure everything's running fine. It's nice to be there for the team, definitely.
Definitely. All right, and for the team to expand the development fund. Right, thank you guys. I will say goodbye, wave to you one last time, and I finish this
Goodbye.
call so I can say goodbye to the community. So thank you. See you
Thank you,
in
Pablo. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
see you later.
Until next time. Bye.
Alrighty. So, hola community, it's Pablo Vazquez again. How was it? Did you have fun? Did you get your questions answered? Sorry we couldn't go through all of them, but I really liked the last one talking about the Blender developers sharing their workspace and how do they work. That was also very curious to hear about the extensions or the add-ons that they use. I know Visual Studio Code is actually pretty popular for web development, for actual Blender development even. So maybe we should do a special for that. Not a Q&A, but Q&A, but related to development, not for developers. You know what I mean? Knowing how to dig through the code, how do you even find parts of the code. My method is basically to just look for, if I want to know a function, I just look for the tooltip of an operator, and then I go, it's like, oh, this tooltip calls this function, which it calls this part, which calls like click, 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 and then you find it. It's probably not the ideal one, so we should do a Blender development Q&A, how to develop for Blender. Maybe we can even fix a bug live or some kind of, I don't know. Let me know what do you think about this idea. Let me know in the comments below. Share this video if you think it was interesting. And remember that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once again, another week we survive. This time alone that we have to spend at home. Please stay home. It's for better, for the future. Keep an eye on your loved ones and stay healthy. We're gonna see each other Monday, same place, same time. Bye bye.